Hello everybody and welcome back. It is good to talk to all of you again on this fabulous Sunday. And today I've got a replay for all of you from Kingpin61, who is playing Minotaur. Now, let's call this a bit of a thought experiment first. Now mind you, it's a very, very good battle, right? And I'll get to all the details about this particular battle as we go through it. But at the very, very beginning of this battle, do a little bit of a thought experiment for me. What do you think this battle's going to look like? You know, you haven't seen the replay yet, but what do you think it's going to look like? And, you know, I did this when I first got the replay. And I looked at it and I went, okay, so it's a miniature battle, tons of damage. And, you know, my sort of expectation for the battle is Kingpin is going to position himself correctly in the right places, using islands as cover to get into those positions. And when in the correct positions, potentially popping smoke and just spamming the crap out of everybody with his armor piercing. In the events where, you know, the enemy presented, the opportunity to use torpedoes, Kingpin is going to go ahead and torpedo stuff. So that's kind of how I thought this battle would play out. Now let's see if, you know, at the end I was accurate or not. And part of the reason why I'm having you to, you know, sort of do this thought experiment is, you know, I'll be blunt. Recently I've not really been all that excited about World of Warships as a video game. It's gotten to the point where for me this game just, it's stale. It's very, very stale. A lot of it is just rinse, repeat, the same formula for your gameplay, sort of game in, game out, game in, game out. And if you do that, you can, and if you know what you're really doing, you can hit very consistent levels of performance. And you know, you tend to look at, you know, let's say the good replays, and you're just like, yep, that's kind of what I expected this battle to look like, you know, and it's just, it's hard to feel excited about things anymore, you know, and I'm not saying that Kingpin does bad. I mean, this is a good battle, and everything he does is very good. I mean, take a look at what he does at the early stages. He's not, you know, hiding the back or anything like that. You know, he's using the Minotaur's very, very good stealth to sort of keep pace with his destroyer, you know, to get himself into a position where he can support that DD on the cap, and of course, you know, maybe potentially get into fights with the enemy destroyer. Minotaurs are great destroyer killers, right? So that's what he's doing. He's gotten onto this cap. Now he knows from the fact that the cap is being capped by an enemy destroyer, as well as with the RPF skill, that there is a destroyer somewhere in that direction. So what he does is he gets himself into a position. As you can tell, he actually turns into that direction a little bit, so that minimizes the profile of torpedoes being thrown to the smoke. Pops Hydro as well to spot torpedoes early. There we go, the torpedoes got picked up. And he's able to determine whether or not he needs to move or whatnot. You also notice that his positioning of the ship by, you know, sort of going forward at an angle allows him to minimize his profile to enemy guns, and also in the event there's torpedoes, if he needs to, he can immediately accelerate, present a very small profile, and potentially dodge those torpedoes, instead of going, let's say, full broadside, where, you know, if the torpedoes come, you're in a lot more trouble. Enemy destroyers pop their smoke, so Kingpin does the very natural thing, which is just launch torpedoes into smoke, because who knows, maybe you are going to get lucky and hit something. Turns attention back to the Kurfürst, which is sitting still and peppering him with armor piercing. And the Kurfürst, well, again, you know, when you're dealing with Minotaur AP, that doesn't really care pretty much what angle you're at. He's going to be able to farm off quite a lot of damage, assuming, again, he targets the right section of the ship. When, as you can see, Kingpin is targeting the center areas of the ship, right? That is the part with the superstructure, which is the areas that you can generally pen quite reliably with the armor-piercing shells. Anyway, so while he's spamming away with the AP, going back to what I was saying earlier, so yeah, these days, I'll be honest, I'm just not so inspired by World of Warships as a video game. You know, just the game to me, and actually picks up that torpedo kill on that Benson. Random torpedo kills are the best torpedo kills. Hell, I mean, Kingpin actually stops shooting at the Kurfürst just to express his amusement before resuming fire. So anyways, yes, back to what I was saying earlier. So yeah, I'll be honest, you know, World of Warships as a game hasn't really inspired me much lately. Just the game feels stale. It feels pretty damn boring. You know, and just every day where I come on, sit down in front of the computer and be like, do I want to play a game today? Warships, unfortunately, not really my #1 choice these days. So what does that mean for, I guess, content? Well, you know, I'm probably going to go and do things that I actually still really enjoy. So maybe what you'll see is you'll see more Know Your Ship videos in the next little while. Maybe instead of doing World of Warships gameplay stuff, I'll do actual historical ship stuff for a while. And when I feel that, I guess, urge to play the game come back, I'll go back to playing the game. Anyway, so Kingpin manages to already rack up 66,000 damage, and of course manages to get the cap. However, does conduct a bit of a penguin expedition while he's there, checking to see if there's some penguins on the island. No, just ramming his ship onto the island, but it's okay. Gets himself off, and of course with the Minotaur's great stealth, and the fact that he's nailed one of 2 enemy destroyers, he doesn't really have to worry too much about getting spotted. I mean, the enemy destroyer is south at sea. So, gets stealth back up, and basically adjusts into a better position. Really big advantage for Minotaurs in battles where there are not that many destroyers is because your stealth is really good, and if you don't have to worry about DDs, you can really reposition quite safely into areas that will allow you to accomplish the maximum effect. And what you'll see Kingpin do right now is he'll pay attention to that curve first, the Iowa, see what they're doing, looking around to see what the other ships are doing on the other side. Yeah, but it looks like there's nothing really to worry about there. So what he's going to do, he's going to reposition himself. He's going to turn his ship, and he's going to position himself in a way that when the curve first and that Iowa come out, they're going to present basically a full broadside to him that he can punish. Again, making sure that, you know, while he's making this approach, that the curve first and the Iowa have no way of actually spotting him. He's using that island to essentially put himself between the battleships and himself, right? They can't spot him, so he's going to be able to position himself nicely into ranges that would be terrifying for any ship to run to Minotaur. Minotaur is one of those ships that if you make a mistake and they're in the right positions and you come out and you show a broadside, get ready for a world of pain, right? So take a look again at the current damage numbers. 66,000 is what he's sitting at right now. When he starts firing, take note of the time that he starts firing and just how quickly that damage gets racked up. It's pretty crazy. Alright, so Kingpin continues to sneak up on these 2 battleships. Initially, he thinks maybe he's going to go for torpedoes. If those 2 battleships had come out maybe at a, let's say, a high rate of speed, I think he would have been able to get those torpedoes off and probably score some nice damage. But those 2 battleships are playing very, very passively. Not really sure why they're being so passive. I mean, a curve first and an Iowa along with a Zhao should not have that much problems dealing with a Montana and, you know, well, at the time, 2 other cruisers until, of course, Kingpin gets into position. All right, so here we go. 11:58 start time, 66,000 damage to start, right? Let's take a look at this. Just watch that damage output. It is terrifying. Again, take a look at Kingpin's position. Very, very nice. You know, he doesn't ever position in smoke full broadside. He always positions at a bit of an angle, and what this does is it minimizes the shell's ability to hit, let's say, a massive amount of Citadel damage, you know, to outright nuke you. Yeah, you might take 1 Citadel here or there. Maybe you'll take a, you know, pretty heavy hit here or there, but it's unlikely you're going to get fully devastating strike by guns. I mentioned 1150 somethings when we started, right? No, 66,000 damage? Well, 109,000 damage, and it's not even a minute later. That's the rate at which damage can be output by Minotaur against a broadside battleship. And that curve first is just in for a world of pain right now. That curve first going down. That Iowa, well, he's lost his best friend, and just look at him. Just in a really awkward position, still broadside to a Minotaur. Minotaur continue to punish him for everything that, yeah, just look at that damage. Good lord. So about a minute later, we've essentially doubled the amount of damage. Actually, more than that now. 100 and almost 40,000 damage here. Yep, 142k. There we go. So from approximately a minute and a half ago to now, we've gone up another almost 80,000 damage. I mean, that's the rate at which the Minotaur can rack up those damage numbers if it gets into these favorable positions. But at the same time, I mean, it's not really all that fun and engaging if you're in that curve first, for example. There's a smoke cloud that is racking up massive damage numbers on you, and you're just basically a giant piñata. Shooting back is, well, difficult if the enemy ship does the right thing and positions correctly in the smoke. Shooting back is quite difficult. The one thing I guess the curve first could have done would have been to actually ignore the Montana for a second, stay angled to him, and maybe actually pushed out and try to go for maybe a hydroacoustic search. But again, against the Minotaur with torpedoes, do you really want to rush out in a battleship and potentially eat those torpedoes as well? It's just, yeah, rock in a hard place right there. Not all that much fun for the enemy battleships there. But at least Kingpin is racking up that damage, punishes the Zhao a little bit, takes a salvo there from the Montana, but wasn't all that bad. Combined with Glorious British Heel, he's pretty much okay. I mean, pretty much the British cruisers, like, yes, if you take massive Citadel damage, you're screwed, but other than that, if you're just taking like a little bit of pen over pen here and there, not all that bad. So Kingpin right about now, trying to get himself into a new position. He's going nice and slow at times, although there you go, you see him sort of juke that Montana by going slow and then speeding up. British cruisers do have that great acceleration. Alright, continuing to get into a better position, slows himself right down, gets to the right amount of speed so that when he pops his smoke, he doesn't drift out of it. Okay, from here on, continues to punish whatever he can actually spot that's in his gun range. Was that Montana, but yeah, not 100%, can't really see him anymore. So launches torpedoes along the vector of where something might come out and surprise him. Once the Montana gets spotted, continue to rain AP hell from above. And Montana really, what are you going to do, right? You don't have that German Hydro or anything. You can't really close that range. Best to try to get into a position of safety a little bit further away and go from there. Okay, so Kingpin has torpedoes heading a little bit to the north there, potentially where that cruiser would have been, sees gunfire coming from that direction, knows that the Kutuzov is right over there. So, while he continues to fire shells at the Montana, keeps an eye on that direction, just in case that Kutuzov gets closer, in which case he's probably going to have to engage. Uses his Hydro, because there's not really anything to spot for him, and Hydro picks up those torpedoes. He's more broadside this time to those torpedoes, so instead of maybe trying to turn anything, he just accelerates. British cruisers have that crazy acceleration. Gets out of the danger zone of those torpedoes, and there is the enemy Kutuzov. And that is Elo, I believe. And of course, immediately gets into a gunfight with Elo. And Kutuzov against Minotaur at this range, against Minotaur's rate of fire, this is just not a very good fight for that Kutuzov. I mean, unless of course the Minotaur makes a mistake, shows too much of a broadside, and the Kutuzov's able to get in those AP salvos, but looks like that's not happening this time around, and Kutuzov just gets taken down by a combination of Minotaur and gross curvus fire. So Kingpin goes back to shooting at the Montana. But sort of right around this time, you'll notice Kingpin looks at his RPF and goes, huh, that looks like there's a carrier that's actually behind that island, because on the mini-map, the last spotted icon, there's a carrier there, but oh, there's the airplane. And that airplane was landing like right there. And so Kingpin realizes like right here that, hey, there's actually a CV that's hiding behind that island, and he is the closest ship, to that carrier that he can actually kill off. But here's where he shows a little bit of discipline. Right? There's a lot of players at this particular point in time who would have been like, oh, there's a carrier, I'm going to go get him. And would have shown a little bit too much broadside to that Montana and probably would have gotten killed off. And you'll see what he does is he actually plays it a little bit more safe. He pops the smoke, continues to engage that Montana, not giving the Montana the ability to utterly nuke him from orbit. Right? Fire some torpedoes in that direction. And he's going to reposition a little bit. He's going to get into a position where he can actually make a move on that carrier rather comfortably. Carrier drops some torpedoes. He tries to back out of the way, but one of the torpedoes does hit. No flooding, though, so he's able to immediately hit his repair, and he's just able to get himself into a better position. And you'll notice that with this kind of change in position, he's eventually going to be able to turn his ship, get behind the island quickly, while not risking any kind of major salvo coming in from the Montana. And all the while, continue to farm up that damage. Right now, we're at 195, 96,000, I think. We're getting close to that. So almost 200k mark, right? All right, so now, breaks away from the smoke, and again, he did that, see, where the Montana was kind of turning away already. So he's not really risking all that much. All right, so gets behind the island, is now reasonably safe from that Montana. Of course, Minotaur AA. It's utterly stupid AA levels as well. I mean, that poor carrier just doesn't have a chance. Once he's been detected like this, and once Kingpin figures out where he is, no chance at all. Shokaku's planes are just not going to do squat against the Minotaur's AA. So Kingpin comes around, gets himself into a proper position, getting himself into a better position there, and fires off both salvos of his torpedoes. Yeah, no way that Shokaku is getting away from him. 249,000 damage and counting. This is high caliber now, devastating strike, so yeah. Looking good. Opens up on the Dmitry Donskoy. And look at that Donskoy. Just giving way too much broadside. I mean, gotta be really careful when you're dealing with Minotaurs not to give it too much of a broadside, because those AP shells, they will tear you a new one. And that Donskoy discovers this very, very quickly, and by the time he realizes his HP is pretty much gone, Minotaur picks up kill number 4. 267,000 damage. Over 570 hits with the main gun. Crazy. Alright. So, now, no more smoke, and you'll see that instead of continuing to fire against the Montana, Kingpin actually stops shooting. This is going to allow him to basically fall off of detect, reposition himself into a better place, and engage the enemy battleships again. So, doing the right thing. Unfortunately, Donskoy manages to get off a panic spread, and he almost dodges it. It didn't happen. Flooding, and, well, 27 seconds more on that damage control party, and he is going to flood out. So because he's going to flood out, fires off a bunch more shots, try to rack up as much damage as he possibly can, and there he goes. Kingpin gets taken down by the Donskoy. His shells continue to fly over towards that battleship over there. Gets himself a little bit more damage, and just look at that chat. No! That darn torpedo! I mean, had that torpedo not hit him, I think you would have done better. Anyways, that is the final statistics panel. 272,000 damage on 604 hits and 6 torpedo hits, 12 plane shot down, 4 ships destroyed, 4 flooding, 1 base capture, 2 devastating strikes, high caliber, Confederate, 11,668 experience. I mean, look at the free experience gain, 2,336, holy crap, and 871,000 credits. Base experience, 3,111, which is quite an insane number. He was actually able to win based on a timeout, though. The enemy team just ran out of time. Check out that damage, just absolutely crazy. Look at all that AP damage, just nuts. Also, take a look at the amount of potential damage that people directed him. Almost 2 million. So a lot of people were shooting at him. There we go. And final credits screen here. 646,000 credits on a tier 10 after all the deductions. That's a very, very good number. And then, of course, very, very solid EXP gain all around. Anyways, Kingpin, very nice battle. Thanks for sending that in. Aside from all that, folks, I wish you all a very, very good weekend. Take care. And I will talk to all of you again really, really soon.